Good afternoon. My name is Arran Hunt. I'm a partner here at Stace Hammond and I head up the immigration team here. We were working on the new 1266 form with several of our clients, and we thought, hey, there's a few questions here which a lot of people might have questions about, so let's do a video to send out to our clients and to the rest of you who may want to watch this video. This is definitely not legal advice, it is just as our commentary on these new forms. If you're looking for legal advice, please get in contact with us at the email address in the description below. Now this is in relation to the changes that took place Monday just passed. Today's Saturday the 24th of July. It's just past midday, and about 5 days ago we saw the changes come into effect, which removed the labour market test for a lot of essential skills work visa applications. Now with that, we'll see here, this was the page which Immigration New Zealand put out, and information here. We have linked this in our previous video, which you'll see a link to at the end of this video. You can go back and watch information about the rule changes. But that one there was no document yet. That was coming. That did come later in the day on the 19th of July, and that's what we're looking at today, is this new 1266 form. Now the reason for this is because Immigration New Zealand don't have changes made to the online system yet. We're sort of guessing that it was the government's pushed this through fast, pretty quickly, and Immigration New Zealand weren't aware of it until the last moment. Which seems to be how things are done currently with immigration here in New Zealand. So they've made this paper document so that they have 5 or 6 weeks to get the website updated to allow this. We think they could just actually made some quick text changes to the website, but they've decided to do it instead on paper, which is probably more problematic, especially when it talks about that these are changes made to streamline application process. And they do that by making you use a paper document. Anyway, but this is the document we have to now use, and we're going to look at this quickly today. Now, this is the 1266. It is a new document. What's funny though is that it's based on an old document. Now, the 1015 was the former work visa paper form, which they've used as the 1266, and you'll see this has a creation date of July 2021. Let's just zoom in slightly. But you'll see here though is that it's got July 2021, it's got INZ1266, and it has up here INZ1015. So they haven't updated that. They definitely used the 1015 as the base document. Now, as it's paper, there are a few differences in that. One thing which isn't clear is whether you're required to provide a certified copy of your passport or not. Typically on paper, you provide a copy of your passport that has had a lawyer or a JP who has stamped and signed it to say that it is a genuine copy, a certified copy. So I would be looking at the original passport, and then I would sign the copy to say that yes, it is genuine. Where with the online system, you just upload a scan. So this is one of the sort of hassles of paper. Now, it's not clear whether we're going to require that. It does mention here about sending copies rather than sending originals. That's down near, I think one of the last pages. It does mention that. So yeah, other documents you can send photocopies only, not original documents. But there's other documents you may wish to send. It doesn't actually say all documents. So there is some confusion there. We would say for now, get a lawyer or a JP to certify a copy of your passport and send that with it. But let's just go into the document now quickly so you get an idea as to what's actually in it. So yeah, what's required for the application? Now this is in regards to those who are of course applying for a work visa, essential skills work visa for a job they already hold. If you're applying for a job which you don't hold, or you're changing roles, regions, or companies, then do it online. This video isn't going to be much use to you. This is just for those who are looking to apply under the new rules that came through on Monday. As I said, if you want to know what those new rules are, check out our last 2 videos. We cover those rules in a bit of detail, and we link to them as well. And there is an amendment circular on the website, the INZ website, Amendment Circular 2021-28, which actually goes through highlighting the changes to the operational manual, with that probably the biggest section there they've added to it. So if you're not applying for that, this is the wrong video for you. So yeah, you need to provide this form, the application fee. Now, the application fee is $495 NZ dollars. You'll enter that in details in the end of this application. 2 passport size photographs. You can get these from New Zealand Post do them. For most pharmacies would do them, so they're pretty widely obtainable. And of course, a passport or travel document or a copy of it, certified, we believe. We will cover medicals and x-rays as we go through the video, and same with the police certificate. And of course the 1113, which we'll cover as well. That's the employer supplementary form. Now, this section here is for those who aren't applying under that exemption. So if you don't fall into this category of this exemption of applying for your same job, then do it online. Don't use this paper form. So this, you can sort of ignore all of this. This is to do with those who are changing job or role or region. Yep, so ignore that for now. So if you're applying for this under the new exemption, you're going to be looking at this box here. You're currently employed full-time and will remain with the same employer in the same role and region. Personal details, section A, put the photographs here, just staple them in the top corner there. Don't glue them. That just makes it harder for immigration. Just put a staple in the top corner. Put in your last name and your given names there. Now, as shown in passport. So if your passport incorrectly has your name or misspells it, put in the misspelled name for the passport. We have clients who have names missing off their passport, but this is what they're asking. They're asking for the names from your passport. Now, if you only have one name and not two names, then just put in the one name and leave the other one blank. If you have multiple first names, so a first name and a middle name, then put them both into here and then put the last name here. Preferred title, that's Mr., Mrs., Miss, Ms., Doctor, or other. Other names you've ever been known by. Now, this could typically be one of two things. If you are married and you have a maiden name, then put your maiden name in here. The other one will often be where you have come from another country and you've taken on a European name or an English name, which seem to have been encouraged by a lot of language schools for a number of years. Then put that in here as well. And then, of course, gender, date of birth, town, country, passport detail. This is where you were born. So country of birth, city of birth, or town of birth. Passport details, so your passport or your travel document, the number, the country that issued it, and the expiry date. And then, of course, places that you are a citizen. Now, if the passport here was from a certain country, say you were from Indonesia, we'll use that as an example, then you already know that you have an Indonesian citizenship, you need to enter in here as well. But if you have more than one citizenship, or if you have a travel document from New Zealand and you are a citizen somewhere else, then put in the citizenship here so that immigration know all of the countries in which you are a citizen. Now, partnership status, if you are married, engaged, widowed, divorced, or separated, that's fairly straightforward. Now, single versus partner can be a bit confusing at times. Now, Immigration New Zealand are not asking whether you are living together in a relationship. What they're asking are you in a partnership? Now, a partnership could be people who are not living together. It's basically how we see it as people who see themselves as being in a genuine, stable, committed relationship, whether they live together or not. So if that is you, then you could be partner. If that's not you, then you would be single or one of the other ones. So don't see this as being, am I living with them, or am I married, or that. See it as being between the single and the partner. If you're in a relationship with them, but you're not in any of the other categories, then tick partner or de facto. Contact details. This is your current residential address in New Zealand, and as you will be in New Zealand if you're filling out this form, then your most recent overseas address. Now, the reason why they have this in here is because this is based on an older form. Of course, right now you cannot apply for a visa from offshore, so you will be in New Zealand. If you're not, you're using the wrong form. So, yeah, put in your most recent overseas address. Now, that doesn't have to be your the last address you had in your home country. If you lived somewhere else before coming to New Zealand, it could be your address from that somewhere else, your last address outside New Zealand before you came here. Now, this is the name and address for communication. If it's going to be going to you, then just tick that box there. To somebody else, tick this one area here. If you've got an advisor or a lawyer, then fulfill this in. So for my clients who are watching this, put my name in here, Arran Hunt, put Stace Hammond, and then put in my work number and my email address. And again, if you're filling it up as one of my clients, then definitely got to tick yes here. That's the whole point, that you have me to act on your behalf. For B5, now this is if you do have a lawyer or an advisor helping you out. This just allows others at that company to call up immigration as well as the person who's listed in here. So I'll often have my colleagues call up immigration to help me out. They can give them a call on my behalf. So I would ask my clients to tick yes there, so that immigration know that any of my colleagues from Stace Hammond can call up immigration on my behalf to find out how things are going, or to act on your behalf. And of course, if you are a client of mine, then definitely want to tick yes to that about getting immigration advice. And if you have immigration advice from somebody, then definitely tick yes there. As always, immigration advice has to come from somebody who's either a licensed advisor who is exempt, which is generally people like lawyers. MPs are exempt. There is a short list of people who are exempt. As a lawyer, I am exempt from registration. But yes, if you're my client, tick yes there. Now, addresses for friends and relatives and contacts in New Zealand. This is often left blank, but we do sort of encourage people to put in, if they have a family member or a close friend, put them in here. Immigration New Zealand, well, never had them actually I have had them once or twice question as to why these areas are blank for long-term people who have been in the country for a long time. They sort of expect if you've been in New Zealand for a few years, you would have a friend or family here. So let's put some information here as to their details. Now, health. Okay, so there's a few sections here to look at. First thing, there is a starting section which just goes through various things. So do you have tuberculosis, TB, yes or no? Do you have conditions which require any of these things, dialysis, hospital care, residential care? If any of those are yes, then put details into here about it being yes, and would sort of recommend that if you have any of those being yes, then go and talk to a lawyer or an immigration advisor, because that will cause future issues. Are you pregnant? Yes, then put your due date in there. If you're not, or you can't be pregnant, then tick no, and you can jump to C6. Now, if you are pregnant and you've ticked yes, it will ask you about how you're looking to cover the costs of giving birth in New Zealand, or if you're not going to give birth in New Zealand. Now, we jumped into medical certificates. Now, there was some wording in the changes in that if you have provided a medical certificate and an X-ray certificate previously with any previous application, you're not required to provide another one. We think it's perhaps misworded in how it's not meant the way it's actually worded, but this is the way it's been done in this document as well. So if you provided it previously, then you can tick yes. If you provided both of them, a chest X-ray and a medical certificate, then you can tick yes there and jump to section D. Excuse me. If you haven't, then you have to go to the next section, tick no, and then most likely you're looking to stay in New Zealand for more than 12 months, tick that box, and you must provide those two documents. Now, there is a bit of a confusion here into the wording as to what if you provided one, not the other. Now, our advice is to our clients is that those who provided, for example, one document but not the other document, would ask them to tick you're required to provide both, and then do a little note here, X-ray provided, medical certificate being done, or something along those lines. Immigration New Zealand will see it when they look at your file and they do the application, but just make a little note here. And now with the medicals and X-rays, most people who get them done, or everyone who get them done in New Zealand, will get an e-medical reference code. That will be an N number with lots of zeros and then some numbers after it. So just enter that into there. That's how you should have it provided by the physician. It's unlikely they'll provide you the certificate to you directly. It will go into the e-medical system. So most likely it'll be a yes, and the number. Otherwise, you provide it with the application. That'd be very, very unusual. Now, same here for character. First of all, there is a section, this area here, about having convicted at any time of any offence, including any driving offence. Now, I've had some discussions online about this recently, and the important word here is the word convicted. Now, it's not saying, have you had driving offences? It's saying, have you been convicted at any time of any offence, including a driving offence? Now, not all driving offences require conviction. So if you have a speeding ticket, you got, a speeding camera, you're 10k over the limit, most likely you're not going to get convicted from that. You'll pay a fine and that will be it. Conviction in New Zealand requires you to go to court and have the court convict you of the offence. In most countries it's the same thing. It requires you to go to court to be convicted, or you get asked to go to court, whether you get you go or not, you get a conviction through the court. Australia has a funny system where convictions can exist without going to court, so be cautious from Australia and any similar countries, but typically conviction will appear on your police record where a speeding ticket won't. So read that first at have you been convicted at any time? And if you've been convicted at any time, then you need to tick yes here. Doesn't say have you got a driving offence, because that might not be a conviction, at which point if there's no conviction you tick no. Now, are you being investigated? Are you wanted for questioning, or are you facing charges for any offence in any country? If yes, tick yes. If no, tick no. Generally, if these are yeses, definitely go see a lawyer or an immigration advisor. Same here, who've ever been excluded, refused entry, removed or deported. Now, note that D3 and D4 are different. D4 is about being refused a visa. D3 is about being refused entry. Now, that means if you've arrived at a country and they've said, no, you can't come in, that's refused entry. And deportation, of course, is being kicked out of the country and similarly excluded. Applying for a visa and being declined is a lot more common and is not so much of an issue. So if you have ever applied for a visa and been declined, not New Zealand, though they already know that, but whether you then got a visa or not afterwards, you may have applied. We had a client who applied for the US and then got the visa a month later. After being declined the first time, they applied again and got it a second time and got a long-term visa. So here's tick yes here. Despite having a visa now, he was refused a visa. He ticks yes here. So fill those in. If there's a yes here, it shouldn't be an issue. If you have a yes on any of D1 through D3, then you definitely want to go talk to we'd advise to go talk to a lawyer or an immigration advisor, because these will probably cause an issue. D5, if you've been a member of a terrorist organization, again, really hope that's not a yes. For most, it will be a no. And have you been involved in a group that does war crimes, crimes of humanity, or gross human rights abuses? Again, really should be a no there. If it's a yes, you really need to talk to a lawyer on that one. And then if any of these are yes, including the have you been refused a visa, put some details in here. It could just be applied for a visa for a student visa for the US, or for a visitor visa for Australia, was declined, and give in July 2018 or whenever it was. Information to here, just so immigration are aware. If it does require more than those few lines, then put on a bit of paper, type it up, write it out, and say see attached letter, so they understand the situation. This is not something to be worried about. The others definitely are. Police certificate, and if you provided one previously with another application, with any application to Immigration New Zealand previously, then you're not required to provide one now if you're going for this new border, so this new labour market test sort of changes. So you can just say provided one, not provided one because you provided one previously, so with a previous visa application. Section E is about employment. Now there is, of course, also the employer supplement document, but this is which covers more detail. This is just the first bit of information here. So this is your current employment. So as you're applying for a visa where you currently hold employment with the guy you're applying the visa for, then put in the employer name, being the company, not the person, the company name there, the address, the NZBN number, which you can get from that website, telephone, email, and the position, so your job title. Previous employment period, including self-employment, fill that in. If need be, put a bit of paper with it. There's only 4 lines there, probably have more jobs than that. I know I do. So just put in piece of paper, see attached paper, and then just fill out in those details. Qualifications, fill it in, no qualifications. Again, if you have more than 4, then please see attached paper, fill it in. And if you hold registration, if required by law for the role that you have, or then tick yes. So if you have a job that say requires registration, like a teacher, then you'd want to tick yes there that you hold that teacher registration. Now this is a note here that you need to provide evidence of this information if you are not currently in full-time employment or you're changing employer. So if you're applying, again, this form is for those who are applying for a work visa for a job they currently hold, then you don't need to put this stuff in. Job offer. Now this is, of course, this relates to the 1113, so it sort of duplicates the information. So the employer name, the NZBN number again, the address. This will be actually the same information that you would have put into this section here of E1. So that's your current job, but of course your current job is the job offer you currently have as well. Same information, position, ANZCO. We'll deal with ANZCO in a moment as to where you find the ANZCO code. Currently working in full-time employment? Yes, that's the point of this form, is that you are working in full-time employment with the employer named F1 and you continue to work in the same role and region, so yes. And then you can go to section G. Now, because you've jumped out at F4, you don't need to do F4. That's in relation to those who have a skilled migrant category application and are looking to get a visa just to remain working in their role. Then you have the declaration by the applicant. Now you have to read through and agree with this. This is basically stating that what you've provided is true. There's nothing false or misleading. If anything changes, so any changes to circumstances, you'll tell Immigration New Zealand. You'll leave before your visa expires. Healthcare. So read through this, because when you sign this, you are agreeing to all of this, and it is an offence to lie to Immigration New Zealand. They can actually seek action against you. So definitely check through that, make sure it's correct. Pick that box, sign it, date it, done. And then if you've got a lawyer or an immigration advisor, get them to fill out the section H. They'll fill that out. For me, I would miss out that, and I'll tick this box here, being exempt and a lawyer. And then down here, declaration from the person, such as myself, that's assisting, and yeah, I would fill that in for my clients. And that's that. Now down here, the blurb, this is the payment section, so it's 495 NZD. So there, 495 NZD is the cost, leave that blank, and then the credit card details that you're paying it with, credit or debit card. And then that is the 1266 form. Now the 1113 is more familiar, however it has changed. This is a new version. There's a couple of small changes to it that have been made because of the change to the 1266 or the old 1015. This is the employer fills this out. So you'll have the employee details. First thing here, the A1 is about the employee. So this is in relation for which employee. So that will be your last name and your first names. The rest will be filled out by the employer. So the person who's filling it out at the employer, their position, the business name, telephone numbers, fax number for some reason, email address, website, mobile, and their NZBN number. Again, this is all, of course, already included under E1 and F1 in this document here. So they've already got all the information there. How long has the company been in operation? This is important because older companies are seen by immigration as being more secure, more genuine, and more stable and able to pay you going forward. A new company may not be able to justify your salary going forward. People does the current business currently employ, so how many staff that they've got, and then how many of those are residents and citizens. So they're looking to see how many of the current employees are locals, and how many are on work visas. It doesn't mean they're going to say no because there's lots on work visas. It will depend on the industry. Have they made anybody redundant in the last 6 months? Now this isn't here because they want to make sure that they're not replacing somebody else with you by making them redundant and hiring you. So with COVID, people may have been made redundant, so it doesn't mean that it's just it'll be if a yes here means that you won't get the visa, but they'll need an explanation as to who was made redundant and their roles and sort of details about that. For most people, it will be a no. And then any companies that they are associated with, so you may have multiple companies owned sort of together subsidiaries, parent companies, or sister companies that are related. And look at them there. Just so immigration can get a bigger picture of the entire company. Now, if you are applying under any of these visas, you're required to provide more information. You're required to provide a full employment agreement. If you are applying for the Essential Skills Work Visa, then you do this section here. Do you currently hold a visa that allows you to work in full-time employment? Then yes. Do you confirm that the person will remain or employed by you, so you'll remain employed by the employer full-time at the same role and region? Yes. Do you confirm that the employment offer is genuine, sustainable, full-time? So yes. And do you confirm that the direct employer of the person named that? Then yes. So make sure these are correct. Ticking yes to these means you're not required to provide all those other documentation required for other ones. Any of those are a no, then you don't fulfill the requirements for being able to skip out the labour market test. Position details, so the job title, this is the job title as per the employment agreement, which could be anything. Companies will often give titles names which they feel is better, more appropriate to the role. Immigration New Zealand, of course, use the INZ1266 system, which is the Australian and New Zealand standard classifications of occupations. This is what they think jobs should be. Now, we have this website here, the skill shortage list checker. If you Google Immigration New Zealand skill checker, you'll get this website here, and this lets you search for different jobs. For example, we'll use a good old accountant, type it in, and it'll bring up some ones that have the word accountant in them. So it could be an accounts clerk, finance manager, or it could just be general accountant. So you go to that and click down here, and there is the ANZCO title, and there is the ANZCO number. So ANZCO title, ANZCO occupation code. Now, if you did want to check whether your role actually did match for an accountant, you'd click on that, you'd save that number, click there, paste it in there, search, choose the top one, or either one actually, it could be 1.2 as well, actually for New Zealand. And here is what an accountant generally does, according to Immigration New Zealand, and this is a description for an accountant. So you're looking to make sure that these things match your role. Now, it could be a number of different things. So in here, there is a number of roles. So there's ones to do with there's truck driver, or you could be an ICT, number of different roles there. Put lawyer in there, there's a few roles there for lawyer. But there's a lot of different jobs in here. Ones that you often see is cafe manager, whoops, not manager, retail manager. Now, if you are working in a fast food place like a pizza place, this is what you'll actually fall under, not cafe restaurant manager. Retail manager is the better fit for the role. That just go through and just search for words. If you look for manager itself, you'll see a number of different options there. And of course, ones like teacher, look through and just find the one that matches best. But that is what goes into this occupation code and the occupation title. Place of employment. If it's the same as the A2, which is the company address, you can just leave that out there. But if it's somewhere else, put it into here. Work duties, responsibilities, basically a little bit of information about the role. Details of pay. Now, there is no field here for putting in your hourly rate or your salary, so put it into here. Things like for holidays, you can say if you have the requirements under the that required by law, the 4 weeks of paid holidays after 12 months, then you can just put in here as required by Holidays Act or something like that. Just a little bit of information. Hours of work, that could be set hours like 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, 1 hour breaks, that sort of thing, or it could be hours per week, 40 hours a week, 30 hours a week, that sort of thing. Duration of job. Now, this is not how long you've had the job. This is how long the job is for. For most people, it will be permanent. If it's a fixed contract, so it's a 12-month or a 24-month contract, or you've got 17 months to go, then put in 17 months. But for most people, that will be with the word permanent. is there a requirement for qualifications required? Put them into there. Experience required? Put it into there. And if there's a requirement for how long they want, this is what the employer is looking for, not so much for the role. Anything else they required? So it may be, you know, can drive a car. There could be other skills or ability to speak a certain language. If it was perhaps you're dealing with a certain country a lot, so you need to speak that language, perhaps they could be in there. And does it require registration? As we saw on the previous form about the registration being required, do you hold registration? Then here, does it require registration? Most jobs don't require registration, but ones like teacher, accountant, things like that do. So that would be a yes there if it fell into that. Now, if you were filling this out for the purpose of remaining in a job you already have, which would be this one here, the person is currently in full-time employment with you and they are applying to remain in the same full-time employment with you in the same role and region, then skip out section C. Section C is about the labour market test and the skills match report, the MSD test. So skip out the section, don't fill it in, don't tick any boxes. It's confusing, ignore that. The employer will then, of course, read through this. This is again them stating that that everything here is correct. They're not making any false statements because again that is liable for prosecution for committing an offence under the Immigration Act. And then they're required to notify Immigration New Zealand about any changes to the circumstances, which could include your losing your job. They're required to notify Immigration New Zealand. And that is it. They can sign this if they agree to all of that, date it, and then give it to you to put into your application. And that is all that's required for the application. At this point, you'll go back to this and you'll have this 1266 form, the fee at the end, your passport photographs attached, your passport, we'll discuss that, your medical and x-rays, police certificates, and of course 1113. So those are now all completed. You will then send this off to, and the address is somewhere on, is it on here? No, it isn't. Okay. If you want to look for where to send this to, we'll go to Immigration NZ fees office. Fee description times where to apply. So we'll go to this. This will show you where to send it. So we're going to go for essential skills work visa. Nationality on passport. Go for Indonesia. This is randoms. Of course, you'll be in New Zealand to do this. Choose your region that you're in. So you can be at Auckland, Manukau, Hamilton, Palmerston North, Wellington, or the South Island. Just choose your region. We'll choose Hamilton and choose on paper. And so there's the 495 that tells you what it is. And we recommend that you courier it. And that is the address to courier it to. It is a DX address, but courier companies will courier to that address. We've done it a lot. We say courier because we find that postal things sometimes go missing. Courier less likely because you can track it. So that's the address to send it to. We always courier our documents for the cost of like $6 or $7. It's much simpler to do that than to risk having to redo the entire document and not know it's gone missing for some time. With this, you can track it and make sure that it gets where it's going. And that is the 1266, the new form, and the 1113, which is required to go with it. Hopefully that was of use to you. To need more help, please get in contact with us. The description has our email address in it. If you are our client and we sent this to you, then you already have our phone numbers and email addresses. Just flick us an email, any questions you've got. But hopefully this will help you get through most of it. Until next time, kia kaha and stay safe.